The human warship Defiance drifted silently through the star-speckled void, its dark hull reflecting little light. Captain James Walker stood on the bridge, hands clasped behind his back as he stared at the main view screen. After 3 months of travel through the anomaly, they had finally reached what the old star charts called assembly space. "Sensors show 5 vessels approaching, Captain," said Officer Tom Reed from his station. "Design unknown. Not in our database." Walker nodded calmly. Humanity had been cut off from this sector of space for nearly 50 years due to the cosmic anomaly. Much had likely changed. "Open communications," he ordered. "All frequencies, standard greeting package." The ship's AI complied, broadcasting peace messages in hundreds of formats. The bridge crew waited in tense silence. Minutes passed. "Captain," Anna Miller called out from her weapons station, voice tight with concern. "The unknown ships are powering weapons." Before Walker could respond, bright energy beams lanced through space toward the Defiance. The ship shuddered as its shields absorbed the impact. "Defensive posture only," Walker commanded. "No return fire. Keep broadcasting." More shots hit the ship. The shields held, but warning lights flashed across control panels. "Sir, we can't just," Miller began. "I said no return fire," Walker cut her off. "These beings don't know us. They're afraid. Show them we're different." The alien vessels moved in a complex formation, striking from multiple angles. The Defiance took each hit, its advanced shields dispersing the energy. "Shield capacity at 60%, Reed announced. Walker stepped forward. "New plan. Target their weapon systems. Minimal power. Precision strikes. Disable, don't destroy." Miller's fingers flew across her console. The Defiance responded with short, controlled bursts that struck the lead alien ship with surgical precision. Its weapons went dark. "Now target their engines." Same approach. Another series of precise shots left the alien ship drifting. The other 4 vessels immediately stopped firing and pulled back. "They're transmitting," Reed said. "I think it's an attempt at communication." "Put it through," Walker ordered. The view screen filled with the image of a blue-skinned alien with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. It spoke, the sounds harsh and clicking. "Running it through the translator," Reed said. After a moment, words appeared on the screen. "Unknown vessel. You have entered assembly space. Identify or be destroyed." Walker stepped forward. "I am Captain James Walker of the Earth ship Defiance. We come in peace seeking contact with the assembly." The alien's 4 eyes blinked in an unsettling pattern. "Earth. Humans? Impossible. Humans disappeared 50 years ago. We were trapped behind a cosmic anomaly," Walker explained. "It recently dissipated enough for travel. We are explorers, not invaders." There was a long pause before the alien responded. "I am Commander Thex of the Assembly Border Fleet. You will follow us to Station Prime for verification. Any deviation will be considered hostile action." The screen went black. "Sir," Miller looked to Walker for direction. "We'll follow them," he decided. "This is what we came for. First contact." The journey took 3 days. The Defiance followed the alien ships to a massive space station that orbited a red giant star. Its structure resembled a giant wheel with spokes extending from a central hub. As they approached, Walker gathered his senior officers. "What we learn here could change everything for Earth. These beings fired first and asked questions later. That tells us something about what they're facing." Miller nodded. "They're at war, or they've been attacked recently." "Exactly," Walker agreed. "We need to be careful, but also show strength. Humanity has survived isolation and developed in ways these beings can't imagine. That might be valuable to them." The Defiance docked at the massive station. Through viewports, they could see hundreds of different alien species moving about. Some had tentacles, others multiple limbs or wings. It was a thriving hub of activity. "Ready the diplomatic team," Walker ordered, "and keep the ship on alert status. Our first real meeting with the Assembly begins now, and I have a feeling they need us more than they know." Walker led his small team through the massive docking bay of Station Prime. Their escort consisted of 6 guards with scaled skin and tails who carried energy weapons that hummed with power. The humans drew stares from the various aliens they passed. Some looked afraid, others curious, and a few showed clear hostility. "They're not happy to see us," Miller whispered as they walked. "Can you blame them?" Reed replied. "We're myths to them. The lost humans who vanished 2 generations ago." They were led to a large circular chamber where 7 aliens sat behind a curved table. Each looked completely different from the others. One was almost liquid in form, contained in a transparent shell. Another had wings folded against its back and feathers that shifted colors as it moved. The center seat held a tall, thin being with gray skin and large eyes. "I am High Counselor Drav," the gray being said, its voice translated through devices in the human's ears. "We have questions about your sudden appearance in our space." Walker stepped forward. "We're happy to answer. Earth lost contact with this sector when the quantum anomaly formed 50 years ago. Our scientists recently found a way to safely travel through it." "Convenient timing," said a bulky alien with rock-like skin. "You arrived just as we face extinction." Walker raised an eyebrow. "Extinction? From what?" The counselors exchanged looks. Finally, Drav spoke. "We are at war with a species called the Vex. They are a hive mind that assimilates other life forms. They've taken 8 major systems in the past year alone." "And you thought we were them," Walker realized. "That's why you fired on us." "Your ship has an unusual energy signature," Commander Thex said from behind them. "Similar to Vex technology in some ways." Miller stepped forward. "May I?" she asked Walker, who nodded. "Our power systems use quantum resonance. It might appear similar to your sensors, but it works on completely different principles." The liquid counselor bubbled rapidly, which the translator rendered as, "Prove it. Show us your technology." Walker considered for a moment. "We can demonstrate some of our capabilities, but I would need approval from Earth Command before sharing sensitive technology." "Then you are useless to us," the rock-skinned counselor growled. "Not necessarily," Walker countered. "We could observe your battle tactics against these Vex. Fresh eyes might see something you've missed." Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. A voice called out in several languages, finally reaching English. "Alert! Vex scout ships detected in system." The council chamber erupted in activity. Screens appeared, showing 3 organic-looking vessels approaching the station. 3 scouts, Thex said. "Standard probe formation." Walker watched the screens carefully. "Those are scout ships. They're massive. The main Vex fleets are 10 times larger," Drav said grimly. "Our defenders will intercept, but they always seem to learn from each encounter." Miller was studying the sensor data on a nearby screen. Something caught her eye. "Captain, look at this energy reading. It's similar to what we encountered in the Orion Nebula experiments." Walker examined the readings. "You're right. The radiation signature is nearly identical." "What are you talking about?" Thex demanded. Walker turned to the assembly leaders. "We might be able to help after all. Those ships are using a biological technological interface that could be vulnerable to certain radiation frequencies." "How would you know that?" Drav asked suspiciously. "Because we tested similar tech years ago and abandoned it due to this exact vulnerability," Miller explained. "Our weapons naturally produce this radiation as a side effect." The council members looked at each other. Doubt and hope battled on their alien faces. "Let us demonstrate," Walker offered. "Allow the Defiance to join your defense fleet." "It's 1 ship against 3, the Rock Counselor said dismissively. Walker smiled. 1 human ship. That might be enough." After a brief, heated discussion, Drav nodded. "Very well, Captain. Show us what humanity can do. But be warned, if this is a trick to ally with the Vex, we will destroy your vessel without hesitation." Walker and his team hurried back toward the docking bay. As they ran, Reed leaned close to the captain. "Sir, are you sure about this? We don't know if their Vex used the same principles as our experiments." "No," Walker admitted quietly, "but we need to earn their trust. And sometimes the best way to make friends is to have a common enemy." The Defiance detached from the station, its engines glowing blue as it moved to intercept the approaching threat. The bridge of the Defiance hummed with focused energy as Walker settled into his command chair. On the main screen, the 3 Vex scout ships grew larger. They looked like massive insects with glowing purple veins running across their hulls. "Assembly Defense Fleet is forming up," Reed reported. 6 ships holding position near the station. "They're watching us," Miller said, "waiting to see what we do." Walker nodded. "Let's not disappoint them. All stations, battle positions, weapons, prepare to modify our standard energy weapons to pulse frequency Delta 9. "Delta 9, sir?" Miller questioned. "That's our lowest combat setting." "Yes, but with the radiation signature maximize," Walker clarified. "I want more radiation than actual damage output." Reed looked up from his console. "Sir, incoming transmission from the lead Vex vessel." Walker sat straighter. "Put it through." The screen shifted to show a being that made everyone on the bridge tense up. It appeared almost human, but wrong in disturbing ways. Its skin was pale gray with purple veins visible beneath. Its eyes were completely black, and when it spoke, multiple voices overlapped. "Human vessel. Unexpected. Join us. Your biological and technological distinctiveness will strengthen the whole." Walker's jaw tightened. "No thank you. We prefer to remain distinct." The Vex being tilted its head at an unnatural angle. "Resistance brings pain. Assimilation brings purpose. Choose wisely." The screen went dark before Walker could respond. "Charming," Reed muttered. "They're powering weapons," Miller announced. "All 3 ships." Walker leaned forward. "Evasive pattern Alpha. Bring us in close to the lid ship and prepare to fire on my mark." The Defiance moved with surprising speed and agility for its size, rolling and banking as it closed the distance to the lid Vex vessel. Energy beams lanced out from the alien ships, missing the human warship by meters. "They're adapting to our movement patterns," Reed warned, calculating new trajectories. "Now, Miller," Walker commanded, "fire all weapons, Delta 9 settings." The Defiance released a barrage of bright blue energy pulses that struck the lead Vex ship. The damage appeared minimal at first, barely scorching the organic hull. But then something unexpected happened. The purple veins on the Vex ship began to pulse erratically. Parts of the hull seemed to twitch and convulse. "It's working," Miller said, excitement in her voice. "The radiation is disrupting their biological components." "The other 2 ships are shifting formation," Reed reported. They're moving away from their damaged companion." On the screen, they watched as the 2 undamaged Vex vessels fired on their own wounded comrade, completely destroying it. "They destroyed their own ship," Reed said in shock. Walker's eyes narrowed. "No, they quarantined an infection. Our radiation must spread through their network somehow." "Sir," Miller called out, "the remaining ships are targeting us specifically now. Energy signatures rising to dangerous levels. Evasive maneuvers," Walker ordered. "And signal the assembly fleet. Tell them to modify their weapons to match our radiation frequency." The Defiance rolled hard as massive energy beams passed by, close enough to make the shields flare. The ship rocked violently as a glancing hit struck their port side. "Shield capacity at 70%, Reed called out. The assembly ships finally moved, approaching the battle with caution. One of them fired at a Vex ship, but the beam had no special effect. "They didn't modify their weapons," Miller said in frustration. Walker hit his communications panel. Commander Thex, you need to adjust your weapon output to match our frequency. The radiation is their weakness. After a moment, Thex's voice came through. How do we know this isn't a trick to weaken our defenses? Look at your own sensor readings, Walker shot back. You saw what happened to their first ship. Another hit rocked the Defiance *. Warning lights flashed across control panels. We can't take much more of this alone, Reed warned. Walker gripped the arms of his chair. All power to forward shields. Miller, prepare to fire everything we have at the closest Vex ship. Let's give them a more convincing demonstration. The Defiance * surged forward, directly toward one of the massive Vex scouts. The alien vessel grew larger and larger on the view screen until it filled the entire display. Fire, Walker commanded. The human warship unleashed everything it had, a brilliant storm of blue energy that engulfed the front section of the Vex ship. This time, the effect was immediate and dramatic. The entire vessel convulsed, its purple veins flaring wildly before going dark. Assembly fleet is moving, Reed announced. They're changing their weapon configurations. Walker allowed himself a small smile. Now we'll see what a real alliance can do. 3 days after the battle, Walker stood in a large war room on Station Prime. Maps and holographic displays showed Vex movements across assembly space. The mood had changed dramatically. Where once suspicion filled every glance, now the assembly officers looked at the humans with something close to hope. The radiation frequency works, Commander Thex said, addressing the gathered officers. We've confirmed 4 successful engagements using the modified weapons. High Counselor Drav nodded, his large gray eyes blinking slowly. Captain Walker, your timely arrival may have changed the course of this war. Walker studied the tactical display. We've hurt them, but they're already adapting. Look at these readings from the latest encounter. Their ships have started to develop shielding against the specific radiation. They adapt quickly, a tall, insect-like officer clicked. It is their greatest strength. Miller stepped forward. Then we need to adapt faster. With your permission, we'd like to examine the remains of the Vex ships we destroyed. Drav looked uncomfortable. We do not normally allow outsiders access to such materials. They can be dangerous. The biological components can try to assimilate unwary researchers, Thex explained. We've lost scientists to such accidents. Reed raised an eyebrow. You mean the ship parts are still alive? In a sense, Drav confirmed. The Vex technology is partly organic, always seeking to grow and adapt. Walker considered this. What if that's their weakness, not just the radiation? Their need to constantly evolve might make them vulnerable to targeted disruption. The war room grew quiet as everyone considered his words. What exactly are you proposing? Thex asked. A strike mission, Walker said, pointing to a location on the map. Your intelligence suggests this system contains a Vex processing hub, where they coordinate their hive mind across this sector. If we could plant a device that broadcasts our radiation on multiple frequencies, constantly changing to prevent adaptation, it could disrupt their entire network, Miller finished, not just individual ships. The assembly officers murmured among themselves. Some sounded excited, others skeptical. How would you get such a device into their hub? Drav asked. Our forces have never penetrated that deeply into Vex territory. Walker smiled slightly. The Defiance * has certain capabilities we haven't demonstrated yet. Later, back aboard their ship, Reed confronted Walker in his private quarters. Sir, are you really planning to reveal our stealth technology to them? Earth Command hasn't authorized sharing that level of tech. Walker sighed. Earth Command is 3 months of travel away through an unstable anomaly. We're on our own here, Tom. And if the Vex were to defeat the assembly and get access to the anomaly passage, they could reach Earth, Reed realized. But sir, the stealth system isn't fully tested for this kind of operation. It's our best option, Walker insisted. What does Miller say about the device? Reed's expression shifted. She thinks she can build it, By studying the Vex remains and working with assembly scientists, she believes we can create something that would continuously broadcast changing radiation frequencies. Then we have a plan, Walker said. We'll need a small team to infiltrate while the main assembly fleet creates a diversion. The next day, Walker presented the detailed plan to the Assembly Council. The large chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species, all listening intently. The mission carries significant risk, Walker concluded, but the potential reward is worth it, disrupting the Vex network across this entire sector. And why should we trust you to lead this mission? Asked the rock-skinned counselor. How do we know you won't use this opportunity to steal Vex technology for humans? Walker met his gaze steadily. Because we've seen what the Vex do to those they conquer. Earth wants allies, not mindless drones. The Assembly has stood against the Vex for years. We respect that fight, and we want to help you win it. Drav stood slowly. I believe the human speaks truth. Their ship has already proven its value in battle. I vote to approve this mission. One by one, the other counselors voted. When the final tally came, approval had won by a single vote. Prepare your ship and team, Captain Walker, Drav announced. The assembly fleet will be ready in 2 days. May your strike bring us the first real victory in this long war. As they left the chamber, Miller whispered to Walker, Do you really think this will work? It has to, Walker replied quietly. Because if we fail, there might not be a second chance. For any of us. The Defiance slipped silently through the dark space between stars, its stealth systems making it nearly invisible to sensors. 5 assembly ships followed in loose formation, their engines dampened. Walker stood on the bridge, watching the tactical display as they approached the Vex processing hub. Stealth systems holding, Reed reported. No sign they've detected us yet. Walker nodded. And the device? Ready, Miller answered from her station. Assembly scientists came through with the biological components. It should interact with the Vex network and broadcast our radiation signature through their entire system. Through the view screen, Walker could now see their target. Unlike the relatively small station he had expected, the Vex hub was enormous. A twisted mass of organic-looking structures that stretched for kilometers, pulsing with eerie purple light. That's bigger than our intelligence suggested, Reed said quietly. The assembly reports were from 3 months ago, Walker replied. It's grown since then. Miller studied her readings. I'm detecting thousands of life signs. Some Vex, but others. She looked up, her face pale. Sir, I think there are captives in there. Different species. Walker's expression hardened. Being processed for assimilation, most likely. The communications officer called out, Sir, message from Commander Thex. Assembly fleet is in position for the diversion. Acknowledge and tell them to proceed, Walker ordered. All hands, prepare for insertion. Stealth team to the shuttle bay. Minutes later, explosions bloomed on the far side of the Vex structure as the main assembly fleet engaged. Dozens of Vex ships peeled away from the hub to counter the threat. Now, Walker commanded. The Defiance accelerated toward a less defended section of the hub, still cloaked in its stealth field. Sir, Reed warned, we're getting too close. Any closer and our mass will distort their sensors, stealth or no stealth. Hold position here, Walker decided. Launch the shuttle. Miller, you're with me. Reed, you have command of the Defiance. If we're not back in 3 hours, get the ship to safety. Reed looked like he wanted to protest, but simply nodded. Understood, sir. The small shuttle detached from the Defiance and glided toward the Vex structure, carrying Walker, Miller, and 4 crew members trained in combat. Thanks to the shuttle's size and the ongoing battle, they reached a docking port undetected. Cutting through now, said one of the team, using a specialized tool to breach the organic metallic wall. Inside, the hub was even more disturbing. The corridors were formed of what looked like living tissue, with veins pulsing along the walls. The lighting was dim and purple, casting everything in an eerie glow. "Life signs strongest this way," Miller whispered, checking her handheld scanner. "The central processing node should be 2 levels down." They moved quietly through the corridors, occasionally pressing themselves against walls to avoid Vex drones, partially assimilated beings of various species that moved with jerky, unnatural motions. After 20 tense minutes, they reached a large chamber filled with bubbling tanks. Inside each tank floated a being in various stages of transformation, their bodies being slowly rebuilt with Vex technology. "This is horrible," Miller breathed. Walker forced himself to look away. "We can't help them now. The device is our priority." As they continued deeper, Miller's scanner picked up something unexpected. "Sir, I'm detecting data transmission patterns similar to..." "Sir, it looks like they're receiving information from outside the galaxy." Walker frowned. "From where?" "I can't tell exactly, but the signal strength suggests enormous distance. Intergalactic range." Before they could discuss further, they'd reached the central chamber, a vast space dominated by a pulsing crystal-like structure that towered 3 stories high. Tendrils of organic material connected it to thousands of smaller nodes. "That's it," Miller said. "The main processing node. If we place the device there, it should spread through their entire network." Walker nodded. "Set it up. Everyone else, defensive positions." As Miller worked, Walker studied the massive crystal. Strange patterns flowed within it, almost like thoughts made visible. "Sir," Miller called, her voice strange. "I'm seeing data in their system. They're running from something." "What do you mean?" "The Vex. They're not just conquerors. According to this, they're refugees. There's something coming from the edge of the galaxy, something they call the Void. They're building up forces to fight it." Walker moved closer to see her scanner. "Are you saying they're the good guys?" "No," Miller answered. "They're desperate. They assimilate others because they need numbers and resources for some kind of last stand." She looked up at him, her eyes troubled. "Sir, what if deploying this device leaves everyone vulnerable to something worse?" Before Walker could answer, alarms blared throughout the structure. They'd been discovered. Red lights pulsed throughout the chamber as the alarms continued to blare. The organic walls seemed to contract and expand, like the entire structure was breathing faster. "We're out of time," Walker said, drawing his weapon. "Is the device ready?" Miller nodded, her hands moving quickly over the controls of the small box they had brought. "Almost. 30 seconds to full activation." "Team, defensive formation," Walker ordered. The 4 security officers formed a perimeter, weapons raised. The first Vex drones appeared at the entrance to the chamber, 3 humanoid figures with gray skin and purple veins. They moved with unnatural speed, their black eyes fixed on the humans. "Fire," Walker commanded. Energy beams struck the drones, who jerked and stumbled but kept advancing. "Standard weapons aren't very effective," one of the security team called out. "They're adapting already." Walker adjusted his weapon to the radiation frequency. "Try this setting." His next shot hit a drone squarely in the chest. The effect was immediate. The purple veins flared brightly, and the creature collapsed, its body convulsing. "Use the radiation frequency," Walker told the team. "Miller, status." 20 seconds, she replied, still working. "But sir, I've found more data. The void they're fleeing from, it's consuming entire star systems. Nothing survives it." More drones poured into the chamber. The security team fired continuously, dropping several, but they were quickly outnumbered. 10 seconds, Miller called. A new figure entered the chamber, taller than the drones, with more intact features. It looked almost like a normal being except for the purple veins and black eyes. When it spoke, its voice was strangely melodic. "Humans, stop. You do not understand what you are doing." Walker kept his weapon trained on the figure. "We understand you're assimilating entire civilizations against their will." "To save them," the figure replied. "The void approaches. It consumes all. We preserve what we can." By turning them into mindless drones, Walker challenged. The figure tilted its head. Not mindless, part of a greater whole. Individual consciousness persists within the network. It is the only way. Device ready, Miller announced. Walker hesitated, his finger on the trigger of his weapon. If what you're saying is true, prove it. Show us this void. The tall Vex made a gesture with its hand. The crystal structure in the center of the room shifted, projecting an image into the air. It showed a region of space where stars simply ended. Beyond was absolute nothing. Not darkness, but an absence of everything. It advances constantly, the Vex said. Nothing stops it. Nothing escapes except through our network. We have seen millions of years of civilizations fall to it. Miller looked at her scanner, then at Walker. Sir, these readings match what I found in their data. I think they're telling the truth. Walker's mind raced. If we activate the device, you will disable our network in this sector, the Vex finished. Billions will be unable to join the evacuation when the void arrives. Captain, one of the security team called urgently. We have more company coming. Walker made his decision. Miller, hold on the device. Don't activate it yet. He turned to the Vex leader. I need to speak with the assembly. They deserve to know the truth before we decide. The Vex seemed to consider this. There is little time. But yes, understanding is preferable to conflict. We will allow you to return to your ship with this knowledge. Just like that. Miller asked suspiciously. We came to this galaxy seeking allies, not slaves, the Vex said. Assimilation began only when species refused to believe us. The threat was too abstract, too distant for them to comprehend. We could not watch more civilizations disappear into the void out of ignorance. Walker studied the alien carefully. We'll take this information to the assembly. But I want something in return. Release some of the beings you've recently captured. Show good faith. Not possible, the Vex replied. The process, once begun, cannot be reversed without destroying the mind. But, it paused. We can offer you one of our own. A speaker who can explain directly to your assembly. Walker looked at Miller, who nodded slightly. Agreed, Walker said. But we're taking the device with us as insurance. The Vex inclined its head. You may. It will show our sincerity that we do not stop you. As they prepared to leave, Miller whispered to Walker, Can we trust them? Walker watched as a different Vex approached, clearly designated as their escort. No, he answered quietly. But we need to hear the full story before we make a decision that affects trillions of lives. Their mission had changed, evolved into something none of them had expected. The war was no longer just about survival against the Vex. It was about the survival of all life in the galaxy. The Grand Council chamber of Station Prime had never been so crowded. Representatives from every assembly species packed the room, their voices a chaotic blend of languages and tones. At the center stood Captain Walker, Miller, and an unusual sight. A Vex speaker, its purple veins glowing softly beneath gray skin. High Counselor Drav called for order, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. This emergency session will come to order. Captain Walker has returned from his mission with unexpected developments. The room fell silent, all eyes on the human captain and the Vex beside him. Members of the assembly, Walker began, his voice steady. Our mission to the Vex Hub revealed information that changes everything we thought we knew about this war. I've brought a Vex speaker to explain directly. Outrage erupted instantly. The rock-skinned counselor slammed his fist on the table. You bring our enemy here, into our command center. The device is ready, Miller said quietly to Walker. One signal, and it will disable any Vex technology within range. Walker nodded slightly before addressing the council again. I understand your fear. But before you judge, watch. He activated a projector that displayed the images the Vex had shown them, the advancing void that consumed everything in its path. The council chamber grew deathly quiet as the horrifying reality sank in. This is what the Vex are running from, Walker explained. a cosmic-level threat that consumes entire star systems. The Vex speaker stepped forward. When it spoke, its voice resonated with multiple tones, yet remained understandable. We have flown across 12 galaxies over millions of years. This threat cannot be fought, only escaped. We sought to warn your civilizations, to help you join our network and survive. By force. Commander Thex shouted. By stripping away our freedom. We tried peaceful methods first, the speaker replied. None would believe us. The void was too distant, too abstract. By the time proof arrived, it would be too late for evacuation. Walker held up his hand. I've seen their data. The evidence suggests they're telling the truth about the void. But their methods remain questionable. Drav leaned forward. How long do we have? At current rates of expansion, the void will reach this sector in approximately 15 years, the speaker answered. The chamber erupted again, this time in panic. Walker raised his voice above the chaos. But there may be another way. A solution that doesn't require assimilation. The room quieted once more. Human technology developed differently during our isolation. Walker continued. Our FTL drive operates on principles unknown to either the Vex or the Assembly. Miller stepped forward. We believe we can modify our drive technology to create a large-scale jump portal, one that could transport ships to another galaxy. Not just individual vessels, but potentially entire fleets or even small stations. Murmurs spread through the chamber as species discussed among themselves. This could allow evacuation without assimilation, Walker said. People keep their bodies, their individuality, their cultures, while still escaping the void. The Vex speaker tilted its head. We had not considered this possibility. Our network approach ensures preservation of consciousness, but your method could preserve bodies as well. Interesting. Is this truly possible? Drav asked, hope evident in his voice. Reed, who had joined them from the Defiance answered. The principles are sound. We would need resources and time to scale up the technology. But yes, it's possible. Then I propose an immediate cessation of hostilities, Walker said firmly. The Vex halt all forced assimilation. In exchange, the Assembly commits resources to this evacuation project. We work together, all three civilizations, to save as many as we can. The chamber fell silent as everyone absorbed the magnitude of what was being proposed. Finally, Drav spoke. This would be unprecedented. Former enemies becoming allies against a greater threat. It's how humanity has survived, Walker said simply. Adapting. Evolving past old conflicts when necessary. The war must evolve into cooperation, or none of us will survive. The Vex speaker extended a hand, a surprisingly human gesture. We agree to these terms. Survival is our primary directive. Your method offers a new path. Drav looked around the chamber, at the faces of hundreds of species who had been fighting the Vex for generations. Then he reached out and took the speaker's hand in one gesture, and Walker's in another. Then let it be recorded that today, the greatest alliance in galactic history was formed. Drav announced. The Assembly, the Vex, and humanity, united against extinction. As the chamber erupted in a mix of cheers and uncertain murmurs, Walker gazed out a viewport at the stars. The Defiance had arrived expecting to find new allies in a war. Instead, they had found a new purpose, and perhaps saved trillions of lives in the process. The war had not just evolved. It had transformed into something greater, a last stand for all life in the galaxy.